Breaking news we've been following for you this morning. Multiple sources reporting President Biden has made his nomination for the Supreme Court. 51-year-old federal appeals court judge Ketanji Brown Jackson being tapped to replace Justice Stephen Breyer, who announced his retirement last month. She served on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit and has been an assistant federal public defender. Brown Jackson is the first Black woman to be nominated to the High Court. Pending a Senate confirmation, we'll bring you updates as they come in.
Our forces are not and will not be engaged in the conflict with Russia in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies and reassure those allies in the East.
President Biden vowing U.S. troops will not be sent to fight in Ukraine. The president's pledge came as Biden announced sweeping sanctions against Russia after it launched a full-scale attack against Ukraine. Joining us now is Army veteran, retired Lieutenant Colonel Col Sangari. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on today. Again, your thoughts overall as to what we're seeing play out in Ukraine at this point.
It's good to be here. I think what you're seeing play out in Ukraine really started with the relationship between the Ukrainian president and the Russian president. On the 12th of July, Russian president put out his essay, fully knowing what Ukraine was about to do. The next day, on the 13th, the Ukrainian president at that time invited the Chinese Communist Party President Xi, in a phone call to become the bridge, as far as Ukraine is concerned, for China to the European nations. That just wasn't going to flow, given the fact that even though Russia and China worked together as part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Russia knew if China came in, it was going to bypass Russian interests over the long run because they're enemies strategically within the region. So that's why he invaded.
Right.
His invasion came in fully understanding that the current leadership doesn't know that it wasn't going to be a good mix to bring the Americans, the Chinese, and the Russians into Ukraine to utilize those resources. And these three do not mix well together.
And we've seen for weeks a Russian troop buildup surrounding Ukraine. At this point, we have American troops in the region, in countries that are NATO members. Big question is, since we've seen troops continue to move toward the country, the capital of the country there at Kyiv, what happens if President Putin goes beyond Ukraine? Do you anticipate him doing so? And then what would the U.S.'s response be?
Well, we're not anticipating, because if the U.S. was going to defend Ukraine, we could have put force structures in, heavy brigades, right as soon as he started getting ready to attack Ukraine. And even now, NATO is just a treaty. You could easily say that Ukraine currently is not a member of NATO, and Article 5 is invoked, and you could go to war with Russia. But of course, we're not going to do that. Putin understands that. However, with that said, the war is not just having the toys on the ground to be able to conduct combat operations. The current war is an economic war, and I think a lot of us are not understanding it. The U.S. is not prepared to fight this war. NATO is not. And as we can see, even the U.S. is hampered to how it can sanction Russia against the type of operations it's conducting. I think we need to reinforce in those Baltic states. We have to be key and understand that in the Russian doctrine, if they do decide to use tactical nukes, from their perspective, it is a tactical use of a nuke against multi-target or infrastructure. However, for us on the U.S. side and also NATO, it is an automatic reply back to Russia.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of wild cards here.
Sure. If I could interrupt, some breaking news into the newsroom. We're learning more about what was said by Ukrainian President Zelensky to the European Union, essentially saying this might be the last time you see me alive. Of course, he's also said that he is target number one in regards to Vladimir Putin and his troop movement. So your thoughts to that comment?
My thoughts are that the United States does not do a good job of really educating Zelensky on what the nature of Russia, China, and U.S. are when it comes to fighting over the resources that Ukraine has. And unfortunately, if you had given better guidance to Zelensky, a day after Putin had gone ahead and said that I'm about to invade you, we're brothers, he wouldn't have told the Chinese to come in and basically utilize all the resources of Ukraine. He put himself in this position. We didn't do a good job of being partners to him to advise him well.
All right, interesting analysis there. Lieutenant Colonel Col Sangari, thank you, sir. We appreciate the conversation. Still ahead, President Biden coming under fire for his handling of the Russian invasion of Ukraine.